As a sports culture, we've become obsessed with this concept of teams blowing a lead. The Golden State Warriors blew a 3-1 series lead in the NBA Finals. The Cleveland Indians also blew a 3-1 lead in the World Series. And then the Falcons blew a 28-3 lead late in the Super Bowl last year. It's become such a phenomenon that jokes are constantly made surrounding this concept. The idea of a team losing a series or game like this is embarrassing. Yet, none of these recent occurrences really compare to what the Houston Oilers let happen to them one fateful day in 1993.
This is one for the ages.
Sadly, football season is coming to an end. But what's great about SeatGeek is it can send you to any event, concerts, sports, you name it. It puts tickets from all over the web in one area, making buying simple. They rate the deals on a scale of 1 to 100, so you know you're getting a good deal. And if it's your first time, I can help you get $20 off your first purchase. Just use my promo code KTO at checkout. I gotta give a shout out to SeatGeek for sponsoring this video. So to start this story, it needs a little bit of context. It's 1993, and the Bills are looking to make it to their third straight Super Bowl. Yeah, at one point in time, the Buffalo Bills were a dominant force in the league. A lot of this was due to their unstoppable offense. Running back Thurman Thomas was a future Hall of Famer. Their top receiver Andre Reed, also a Hall of Famer. And perhaps most importantly, quarterback Jim Kelly, who just made it to his 5th Pro Bowl. Oh yeah, he's also a Hall of Famer. But going into the playoffs, there was one major problem. Jim Kelly was out. He had injured his knee in their final regular season game, and the Bills were facing the Houston Oilers, who coincidentally, they had just played in the previous week. The Oilers had all the confidence in the world going into this game. For them, they were led by veteran Warren Moon, who was one of the top quarterbacks in the league. And since Jim Kelly was officially not going to play, you couldn't ask for a better situation. The fate of the Bills rested in the hands of lifetime backup quarterback Frank Reich. During the final regular season game from the week before, after filling in throughout the game for Jim Kelly, this is what Frank Reich had to say afterwards. Quote, "It took me several series to get warmed up and get a presence in the pocket. I was just rusty at that. I had trouble communicating the plays to the team, and running the no huddle was difficult." This was his final stat line. That 23.6 passer rating is just awful. If you held any optimism after seeing Reich play the week before as a Bills fan, that quickly disappeared once the playoff game started.
38 degrees. The wind will be a factor on the run and shoot, 17 miles per hour.
Going to throw. Little pump fake, comes back, bites some time, throws. Touchdown for Houston. Motion fake in the end zone. Touchdown. The 4 wide receivers now have scored touchdowns for the Houston Oilers. Moon goes deep. Touchdown, Houston.
Things looked a lot like the previous week. The Oilers had jumped out to a 28-3 lead going into halftime. They had outscored the Bills 55-6 in their last 6 quarters of play. And for Bills fans who still had hope, this is how the second half started.
Right goes far side. This is intercepted. And down the far sideline is Bubba McDowell. And he will score.
The look on his face says it all. That is the pure face of defeat. So imagine the Falcons are up 28-3 on the Patriots, right? Well, give them one more touchdown. Let's injure Tom Brady. And we're not going to give him Jimmy Garoppolo. He's too good. So we will give them Brian Hoyer. The Patriots are down 35-3 in the third quarter with Brian Hoyer at quarterback. That's the situation that we're dealing with. As you might expect, fans in Buffalo were lining the exits. Sitting in traffic would be much better than watch this disaster of a football game unfold. The Oilers were literally adding insult to injury because now Thurman Thomas, the Bills' Pro Bowl running back, was sidelined with a hip injury. But even with everything that was going on, something had to have possessed Frank Reich, because the very next drive, he went from Brian Hoyer to Super Bowl 51 Tom Brady.
Offsides basket, goes 10 yards. Buffalo scrambles for it. The Bills say they have it. Right to throw. Down the side. Phoebe scores. 10 yards, first down at the 26. White House touch, has another man open. Back pulling into the end zone is Andre Reed. Moon high, tipped, intercepted. Henry Jones. Down at 5. At the 18-yard line. Joe going for it at 4th and 5. Into the end zone, has a man, touchdown.
The biggest comeback to victory in any NFL game, regular season or postseason, is from a 28-point deficit. So if Frank Reich is able to pull this thing off, it would be an NFL record.
Like to throw. End zone, touchdown.
Imagine being a Bills fan that left the game when it was 35-3, and then on the way home while you were driving and you turned on the radio, you would hear that Frank Reich had thrown 4 touchdowns and the Bills were winning the game. The Oilers did end up getting a late field goal in the fourth quarter, which did force overtime. And they did have one last chance to save this game.
Buffalo has the ball. Adam Langner will snap.
Saw.
It is right down the middle.
This is truly one of the most unbelievable moments in sports. But for Frank Reich, a better way to describe this moment would be deja vu.
From the Orange Bowl in Miami, it's the Maryland Terrapins against the Hurricanes of Miami.
Let me take you back almost a decade to 1984. Frank Reich is in college as a member of the Maryland football team. And just like in the pros, he was a backup most of his college career. On November 10th, 1984, unranked Maryland headed into one of the most ruthless places in college football, the Orange Bowl. In the early stages of what would become one of the greatest dynasties in college football history, the Hurricanes brought the storm that day.
Kozar straight back. Dumps it over the middle. Bratton wide open. He's down to the 1-yard line. Kozar, play action fake. I just sort of floated it in for another Miami touchdown. It is 30-0.
Maryland's quarterback Stan Gelbaugh was completely overwhelmed by Miami's defense. And at the end of the first half, the Hurricanes led 31-0. Maryland's coach decided at halftime that maybe it was time for a quarterback change and put in Frank Reich.
Under some pressure, guns it over the middle to Hill. Hill with a nice move at the 20, might go all the way. Reich against the blitz, throws complete to Hill. Hill to the 1-yard line. And that's exactly what they want to do, the pass, touchdown. And right now it's up to Frank Reich to pull it out of the fire. And he's got a man out there, Hill. Greg Hill on the tip, and it's a touchdown.
Listen to this stat about the man himself. After his 4-year college career was over, he had 11 career total touchdowns. And then in the second half of that game versus Miami, he had 4 of them. Even though the man was pretty much a backup in college, he still would be drafted by the Bills after his senior season. And I'm almost positive it was because of that single game alone. Blowing a lead in any major sporting event is embarrassing. Imagine how they must have felt knowing they blew a 35-3 lead to a backup quarterback.
The greatest